My guest of the day is Chetan Mahajan. He's written The Bad Boys of Bokaro Jail, and he's also CEO of HCL Learning. Now, once you were wrongly sent into Bokaro Jail, you found it almost like a microcosm of India.
Yep.
All those different wards. Talk about the different wards and what kind they were. I mean, it makes for hilarious reading, but it's also quite serious when you think of the fact that you were actually going through what you're going through, which I'm sure you were really, really panicking at one point in time.
Oh, yeah.
So talk about the different wards and the privileges you get. This is actually true, people. Everything he's saying. Go.
Yeah, so basically you had lots of different wards. In each ward you had a temple or a prayer area. So there was the yoga ward, where there was once a yoga instructor who had come and stayed, and he had long since gone, but all the inmates there would still practice yoga. And I went there, peeped in once. I thought maybe I'll do a class or something, which was a funny idea in jail, doing a yoga class. But when I peeped in, there were these 4 or 5 guys. All of them had their eyes closed, and they're doing various, yoga asanas. So I left them alone. And then similarly, there was the hospital ward, which is where I finally landed up, which is actually for the infirm people who are unwell. And there were a fair number of amputees and various other people. But then there was also kind of like the privileged ward, because it was the only place in the entire jail where you had beds. So even that was a big deal, and you had a little more privacy, and you were left alone largely. So having a bed was like the ultimate privilege. So I actually moved to that ward eventually. And how you figure out which ward you landed up in was really your affiliation and how much money you had.
Correct.
So the most premium ward in the hospital was actually the, I've changed the number of the ward also, but it was a certain ward, and that's where you had all the serious criminals. The guys who were the career assassins, the guys who were like in it for seriously big time stuff, so they could afford to live in it. And there you had a television, you had iPod, you had power backup, so you actually had an inverter connection going in. Yeah. You had, you had a heater, so you could get hot tea whenever you wanted, which was a big privilege. And I tried that a few times. You also had ganja, which I did not try.
I'm thankful.
But so that was kind of like the 5-star ward of the jail. So
and there is a point when you actually go to one of the wards and you use the cell phone to call your wife, and then one of the inmates turned around to you and said, "Chetan, you better watch it, because sometimes these calls get traced back."
Yeah.
And you might get caught in the whiplash of it. What is it called? Rangdari.
So Rangdari is basically a hafta call.
In Mumbai you call it hafta, but there is Rangdari.
There is called Rangdari. But because these guys were criminals inside the jail, they would actually make the hafta call from inside the jail. And the thing is that the cell phone operators can track physically where the call has come from. So what the cops would do is track back all the other calls made from that number. And so if I were to call my wife from a phone and the same phone has been used to make for a Rangdari call, they're going to go there and ask her, okay, whom do you know in Bokaro jail? And that I wasn't as much worried about me getting into trouble, but that would get her into a lot of trouble.
Correct.
And she was already deep enough in it, so with me being in jail.
And in the past, there's a gentleman called Mr. Iyer who was also in that jail, who got into more trouble than necessary because he was calling his girlfriend and not his wife.
Correct.
And they found out he was having an extramarital affair.
Exactly.
God, this is hilarious.
And this is all real life.
And real life,
what
man.
makes it
It's not even a movie or a script we're talking about. The Primitives and Crash. At 9:26, in conversation with Chetan Mahajan, he's CEO of HCL Learning. This is fascinating. Don't go anywhere.